Hey everyone, tired of hearing whether or not the Safe Banking Act is going to pass or not? Well, it could be happening sooner than you think. Tap the screen to learn why. All right, welcome to the Diamond Hands Podcast, a TDR podcast for the week of October the 11th. It's a division of the Dales Media Group. I'm your host, Shad Dales. Before we begin, all views on the Diamond Hands Podcast and guests on this podcast are purely opinion. You should not treat any opinions expressed by us or our guests as investment advice. The views on this podcast are solely intended to be informational and are not investment advice. Joining me, as usual, lead financial writer BenjaminA.Smith. Benj, how are things?
Things are well, Shad. How are you?
I am good. It's Sunday. It's Sunday, right, guys? And Anthony, how was the week?
That's good. Crypto's pumping. Everything's looking good. Sentiment's been great all week. Can't complain.
Yeah, well, last week we said we have liftoff in Bitcoin. This week, I think we enjoyed a little bit of a ride with it marching towards 60,000 and Ethereum towards 4,000. Yet our good friend over at JP Morgan, Jamie Dimon, thinks it's worthless. So, Anthony, we know you completely disagree with this, and rightfully so. So what kind of changes do you foresee coming to this industry, knowing people like Jamie Dimon from JP Morgan potentially could become less and less important as time goes on?
I mean, Jamie Dimon's one of the masters of Wall Street. Jamie Dimon is regarded as one of the premier banking CEOs of his time. So, I mean, with all due respect, I mean, Jamie Dimon's got a lot of clout in the world of finance. But, I mean, in this call, he's completely wrong. And, I mean, you've seen legendary investors like Bill Miller come out this week and endorse Bitcoin. I mean, I don't want to call Vladimir Putin very forward-thinking, but he's come out and said that crypto has a use case and it will be heavily regarded as a form of payment in Russia. And, I mean, you've seen a lot of other large-scale people come out and say that, yes, Bitcoin has its use case, it has its worth, and it's going to have its moment in the sun. And, I mean, with the coin currently going on its way to 60K. I mean, I think there's a lot of people that don't agree with Mr. Dimon's view of it being worthless.
So why do you think he said it?
I mean, he's got to protect his bank. I mean, he's got to protect his bread and butter, and he's got to protect his investors. I mean, when you look at the crypto sector as a whole, I mean, there is a vast disruptor of the current financial sector underpinning everything that's being done in Bitcoin to Ethereum to Solana. I mean, the new pipes of the financial sector and the new pipes of how we transact are being built in the crypto industry. And I mean, it's going to uproot everything that he stands for and everything that he's built. So, I mean, I can understand his take, but it's get with the times and get with the program. Because, I mean, unless banks like JP Morgan start to go into the crypto sector and start to innovate and bring on other Fintech aspects of their business, I mean, they're going to get their lunch eaten in the long run.
Yeah.
It's really puzzling why they would do that, Anthony? Because, investment banks, sort of like the tier twos, like H.C. Wainwright and company, have gotten in and embraced it and, created whole investment banking divisions based on crypto. So, and I'm hearing things about, company officials, other people in the company that are not Jamie Dimon are also sort of embracing crypto sort of behind his back. Why do you think Jamie Dimon is coming out publicly and saying this multiple times, but yet it doesn't really jive with some of the other opinions in his investment bank?
I think it's ego. I mean, Jamie Dimon's a man that doesn't get many things wrong. He's been a Bitcoin bear for years now. He's sticking to his guns. I mean, I can respect what he's doing. I mean, he's great in his own right, but the fact of the matter is JP Morgan's going to have a crypto trading desk. JP Morgan's going to allow clients access to crypto, despite what Jamie Dimon thinks. So, I mean, in the broad scheme of things, like, he can say whatever he wants, but crypto adoption's here, and crypto adoption just keeps growing. So, I mean, that's pretty much my take on it.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, how do you see this playing out? How do you tell a guy like Jamie Dimon he's wrong? You can't. And at the same time,
No,
millennials, try
no.
telling them that they're wrong. You can't, because it's two
Yeah, and
totally opposite ends of the way things are done, right?
I mean the beautiful thing about crypto and the beautiful thing about just everything that's going on is figureheads like that. Yes, their opinions are heard, but they're not taken into heart when it comes to any decisions that are being made
Yeah.
around the currency. I mean, like I said, he's got a bank to protect. He's
Yeah.
got he's got a strong view on it, and I mean he's sticking to his guns. But I mean,
Yeah.
like I said, in the grand scheme of things, Jamie Dimon saying Bitcoin is worthless is not going to move the needle.
Yeah. The SEC also put out a crypto tweet yesterday saying, before investing in a fund that holds Bitcoin futures contracts, make sure you carefully weigh the potential risks and benefits. What should we read into this?
I mean, this is like putting the cart before the horse. I saw this tweet come out yesterday. This tweet was pretty much everywhere across Twitter and the web. It's pretty much the SEC telegraphing that a Bitcoin futures ETF is coming and has been, I guess, greenlit per se, without being actually announced. So, I mean, I'm looking for an announcement to come this week in regards to a Bitcoin futures ETF being approved and being launched on the major exchanges.
So continued growth for the industry.
Yeah, I mean, growth is here. Growth is here. Adoption is here. It's the trains, like I've said before, the trains left the station. There's going to be bumps along the way. I mean, there's been a hell of a lot of volatility. So far, there's probably going to be volatility going into the future. But I mean, adoption is here, interest is here, and it just keeps growing. And now it's time for the institutions to get into the game.
It feels different now, does it not?
Oh yeah, the conversation completely feels different. It feels as almost there is a validation in terms of the narrative that's being pushed around crypto. It's
Say,
been validated. It's still seen as highly speculative, but in bigger circles and at the top of companies, I mean, there is validation. I mean, you saw Stripe this week come out with news that they're forming a crypto team internally. So I mean, I think you're going to see fintech lead the way as the on ramp to mass crypto adoption and really crypto use cases. But it's here and it's validated. We're not going anywhere.
Last thing I wanted to touch on is, and I want to incorporate this weekly in our podcast, it's a feature on learning the crypto space more and more for newcomers. And one of the first questions I wanted to ask in this week is, what is Solana? And we'll just start with that question there, and maybe you can walk us through.
Yeah, I mean, Solana is its own blockchain. So the Sol blockchain operates completely separate from anything such as Ethereum, but it is superior as of right now in terms of transactions per second. Solana can transact up to 50,000 transactions per second, while Ethereum is limited to around 30 to 50 right now. So if you're going on that metric, Solana is superior. However,
Okay.
Web3 and most of the crypto infrastructure out there is built on Ethereum. So, I mean, I wouldn't take that as any kind of telegraphing as Solana being an Ethereum killer. But Solana is starting to develop use cases in DeFi. Solana has already proven its use cases in the NFT space, and it is becoming a formidable competitor to Ethereum. The coin has had an insane trajectory this year, going from around the mid 20s to hitting upwards of $200 per coin, which is settled now to I think about 160 per coin, and it's garnered a lot of institutional interest. I don't think I've seen Mike Novogratz on CNBC once in the past 6 months without mentioning Solana. Solana is something that everybody should be looking into. It's
Can it
going to
compete
be
with
here.
Can it compete with Ethereum?
It is competing with Ethereum. I
Okay.
mean, do I think it can compete with Ethereum? Yes. Do I think it's going to knock Ethereum off its pulpit? No. But I mean, it is here. It is being adopted on a daily basis by users. It has its own wallet via the Phantom wallet, and it's got its native currency. It's a formidable competitor to Ethereum.
Ben, you want to add anything?
Yeah, I can add that I think the comments by the Fed, I believe it was Powell or it was one of the vice presidents of the Fed. They're talking about inflation being 50% perhaps transitory or 50% persistent, and I think that investors should pay attention to those comments because it's really propping up in the use case for Bitcoin in terms of a store of value or perceived store of value. And even gold this week received a pretty good bid, and it's starting to head upwards a little bit. Still mired in a long-term downtrend, but it's starting to pick up. So I think inflation is a positive that it could be persistent, and people are looking to get out and put money into assets like Bitcoin, like Ethereum, like some of the, it's like crypto in general, along with gold, just really as a store of value. So I think that's really helped propping up the market as well.
Let's shift to cannabis. I know there is where are we? Like, I know each week we have this conversation. It seems like copy and paste. But I look at, like, for example, Dutchie this week, which is led by Ross Lipson. They closed a $250 million Series D funding round led by D1 Capital Partners. The round now values the company at $3.75 billion in market conditions within this space right now. So, one, what do you think of this valuation? And two, how are they raising this money given the times that we're currently in right now? We'll start with you, Ben.
Yeah, it's sort of amazing actually that they're able to raise that money. I think their valuation's close to $4 billion, or pretty much, it tops a company like Cresco Labs, a Tier 1 MSO. And it's sort of ironic that private equity is able to raise all this money and is doing better with like raising valuations, while public equity, like in the stock market, they keep going down despite the fundamentals. So in general, I think obviously the market is strong. The appetites to invest in quality companies and privately is still there, and the underlying fundamentals of the market are healthy. I think that's the ultimate takeaway here.
Anthony, what do you think of the valuation?
I love it. I like to see institutional capital coming into the cannabis sector, especially like D1 Capital, Tiger Global, starting to double down on its bets in the cannabis sector, as well as Thrive, which is Jared Kushner's brother's fund, which has been in multiple tech unicorns. I think it's lofty considering the valuation was only $1.7 billion in March. So you're looking at a double from then to now. But I mean, the total addressable market's massive. I mean, you're probably looking at a global software solution for the cannabis sector. And I mean, it's tech multiples are massive right now. I think the Nasdaq's rallying another 200 points today. So I mean, it's indicative of the environment that we're in. But I mean, like we've seen with a lot of these companies, I mean, they can have lofty valuations in the private market. You SPAC them, and then they come into the public eye, and they aren't able to command that value. So I mean, I think it's great for right now, but we'll see how everything transpires.
Yeah. Canopy Growth also made news. They bought U.S. edibles manufacturer Wana Brands for nearly $300 million. This is a big brand both in the U.S. and in Canada. What do you think this means for Canopy? You like the acquisition?
I absolutely love this.
I like the acquisition. Yeah. What do you think, Anthony?
I actually absolutely love this acquisition. I mean, I think Wana is one of the best brands in the U.S. It's got coast-to-coast exposure. It's got brand recognition. It's got the Canadian partner in Indiva, and Canopy made a hell of an acquisition here. They can integrate it into Acreage, and they can also start to bring it into Canada in a larger scale capacity. I'm all for this acquisition. I think it was a brilliant move by the Canopy team.
Ben?
Yeah, they're one of the biggest edible producers and manufacturers. So I mean, obviously, it's going to create a huge presence, and it's going to go very well in the Acreage dispensaries once cannabis is federally legal. So I think it's a good move. I think edibles, in terms of market share, are probably going to edge up over time over smokable flower. So I think it's a very prescient acquisition and something that can help them once in the United States once cannabis becomes federally legal.
Can I ask?
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty good point, Ben, because I mean, I have a lot of family as well as friends that are very against consuming THC, or were very against consuming THC. And then I go see them in Oregon and they've got edibles in their fridge. And then I talk to them and they're like, "Oh, well, what do you think? What do you think of this edibles brand or this gummy brand?" Meanwhile, they will not touch flower. So I mean, I completely agree with that sentiment that edibles are the future, really, of consumption in the THC category.
Yeah, I see. I believe that too.
It's amazing how perception works like that too. Like if you're smoking a
Yeah.
flower, it just like
Yep.
it's sort of ingrained in our DNA that you're like a Cheech and Chong or you're unproductive in society if you're just sitting around your couch
Yep.
as a stoner, smoking flower. But if you take an edible with the same sort of THC content relative to the delivery method, it's fine, right? So it's just like perceptions. And I know in Canada here, smokable flower still dominates the market, and things like beverages and edibles aren't as popular. But I think over time that trend is going to change.
Yeah, and I mean it also contributes to the fact that it's actually dosable. I mean, if you're eating an edible, you can take 5 milligrams, you can take 10 milligrams, you can take 20 milligrams, and you know exactly what you're taking. If I smoke a joint, I can't be like, oh, I just consumed X amount of THC, and I mean, no one's really going, oh, I'm going to smoke a gram and get X. So I mean, for the novice consumer and for the entry level cannabis consumer, I mean, edibles just make complete sense, and it also lets them see what their tolerance is and what they actually want to feel from the product versus a spray and pray approach with a smokable product.
And on top of that, companies like Canopy, Tilray still stay relevant in the U.S. landscape. And what continues to blow my mind are the companies that are producing fundamentals. Yet these companies on the side that are Canadian companies, they seem to move more than anyone and draw more attention than any other stock with the industry. Why do you think that is? Anthony, we'll start with you.
They're traded on major exchanges. They're
Yeah.
traded on major exchanges. They've got name recognition, and they were seen as the bellwethers in the space. I mean, the Canadian space had a 3-year leg up, really, on mass media appeal, as well as people really knowing what the hell cannabis companies are. So, I mean, if you talk to a lot of people in the U.S., I mean, while they do know the names of a lot of the MSOs right now, I mean, they know Canopy Growth, they know Aurora Cannabis, they know Tilray. And I mean, they really see them as preeminent cannabis names. And a lot of people out there do think that those are better investments than the MSOs. Meanwhile, you can make an argument from a fundamental perspective. I mean, there's nothing better than to be exposed to an MSO right now versus their Canadian counterparts. But I mean, it's first to market and it's brand affiliation. That's, in my opinion, that's purely what's driving the interest and the price action in the stocks.
So, Ben, let's say scenario here, safe banking does pass. How does this landscape look?
I think it's going to completely flip everything around because I mean, it's we've been talking about it sort of ad nauseum for the past few weeks that it's quite clear that the market is discounting fundamentals completely and trading almost exclusively on regulatory anticipation on Capitol Hill, right? So if safe banking through the NDAA Act, which is going to go and it's in the Senate right now, and it's trying to become an amendment to the NDAA, which gets passed basically every year for appropriations for defense. If that is able to get passed, it's going to change everything because then more than likely credit card purchases will be allowed in the cannabis industry, and obviously that's a huge plus. You're talking probably at least 5 to 10%. Basket sizes are going to increase for some of these operators. So that's going to increase sales for sure. And then, of course, the listing issue, that's going to come up, whether they allow big ticket listing on the NASDAQ and NYC or just the TSX in Canada remains to be seen. But there probably will be some uplisting component to that, and then regularized banking. So it's going to be huge. And given the way the market is completely tanked in the U.S. Over the past 2 or 3 quarters, I think it has the chance to flip sentiment on its head.
What'd you think of Todd Harrison's tweet yesterday regarding the, I guess, safe banking? I can get it word for word, and I'll actually bring it up right now. But should people read much into it at all? It said, I know everyone has anticipatory fatigue, but we think this is meaningful, significant, not a coincidence, as the deadline in a response to Warren and Booker is before the Senate takes up the NDAA, and GOP may try to steal the Canada vote by supporting safe banking. What'd you think of that?
I think it's it's notable. I mean, Todd is obviously an insider. He works at CB1 Cap. He knows and talks directly to a lot of the senators and people on Capitol Hill. So he's a person in the know. I think that the problem with all this is that safe banking was originally proposed by a couple bipartisan senators in 2017. So here we are 4.5 years later, and simple banking, right? Allowing these companies to, simple banking access is still not been allowed, right? 4.5 years later. So I think the
Yeah.
market's in very much a boy who cried wolf syndrome, where, people like, you know, leaders on social media have been saying that they think that things are going to advance, and they haven't, and things have stalled out and been pushed back. So no one really buys that it's going to happen. But could it? Absolutely. And there's a real possibility that it could be included in the
Well,
NDAA Act now, I think.
Anthony, I bring this up because Todd actually wrote on Substack this morning that he attended this 2 to 3 day event, this Trailblazers event, which is basically like the who's who of the cannabis industry. So you know how the retail space likes to start thinking and connecting all the dots and stuff like that. But you wonder if there is actually a lot of movement on the back end as far as legislation than what a lot of people maybe understand or know at this time.
Yeah, I mean, I like Todd Harrison. I respect him. I wish he had a little bit thicker skin and would unblock me on Twitter. But I mean, what he said makes a lot of sense. I mean, especially when you look at the American political theater, the Democrats need a win going into 2022 if they want to actually keep the House. And I mean, safe banking is a win-win for everybody. It's not cannabis legalization, so you're not going to get the reverberating, I guess, negative consensus that's still here around cannabis. But I mean, you're going to get a win on the cannabis operator side, a win on the political side, and then from the political theater, you didn't legalize cannabis, so you're not really pissing off anybody. You really have to understand the nuances of what's going on to really see it as a net negative as a politician and as a voter. But I think safe. I think safe has got momentum, and I think safe is that they're seeing it as a win, and it's going to get passed here shortly.
You do believe that?
Yeah, yeah. I think it's very much so. I
When
think
you
it could
say
very much so materialize here.
When you say shortly, do you have an idea or completely speculating?
I mean, I'm completely speculating here. I mean, I'd love to see something passed by January. But I mean, it 2022 is coming, and like I said, these politicians need votes, and they need to win over their base. And
Yes.
I mean, when you see a lot of the minority voters in the U.S. and a lot of these major blue states, I mean, cannabis is a winning topic. Cannabis is something that they can garner votes on from driving progress and actually delivering on something that they ran on, and it's about damn time. I mean, I really do think that from a political aspect, SAFE does have a very good chance of gaining steam and passing here very shortly.
Well, I find it notable that you say you do think there's some momentum building here and it'll happen a lot sooner. And I know a lot of people have heard this story time and time, boy cry wolf type thing, but you do believe this is going to come and come fast, you're thinking.
Yeah, yeah, I do think so. I do think it's a win going into 2022. And I mean, there's too much, there's not enough things out there that they can win on. They're losing ground left and right. I mean, the Biden's approval rating is down. The Democrats' approval rating is down. I mean, they need something to boost morale. And I mean, maybe I'm blue-eyed and bushy-tailed, thinking that's going to be cannabis. But I mean, I can't really drum up anything else for them to get a short-term win here. That's easy. That'll resonate.
Do you not see a lot of initiatives like this regarding the economy starting to get passed and a lot of attention, knowing that COVID is kind of in a lot of ways, it appears is I don't want to say it's completely controlled, but it's kind of off to the side now, and there's more focus on what needs to be done on a day to day basis regarding the economy, Anthony.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I think that people obviously need to be focusing on jobs and need to be focusing on tax revenue on the state level and the municipal level. But I mean, I also don't think the politicians really see cannabis as a means of raising tax revenue in the grand scheme of things. I think they said that there's a $7 trillion loop tax windfall in this country. I mean, cannabis isn't even going to make a dent in it. I'd love to say that yes, it's going to significantly raise tax revenue, but jobs it will create. Tax revenue, I think it does marginally, but I don't think that that's going to be a driver. I mean, what I'm hoping is that they actually do see this as a category that they can win on, and they pass the damn thing, because the conversation's been going on for so long now that I think people are actually starting to lose faith that this stuff is even going to pass in the current political climate. So I mean,
Yeah,
I don't want to say it's like now or never. I don't want to say it's now or never, but I mean, it's kind of like shit or get off the pot time. Like this needs to pass because it's getting stale.
makes you wonder. Psychedelics, another quiet week as we get closer, I think, each week to the Compass Pathways Phase 2P endpoints. There's going to be lots to talk about in this industry in the next couple of weeks, if the news obviously is promising. So for those that are watching right now, yes, it still remains status quo, but I do think that there's blue skies on the near-term horizon. Do you both agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I agree. I mean, this sector I find fascinating. I definitely see it as one of the great disruptors moving forward. But from a capital markets and a PR standpoint, I mean, it's I don't want to call it stale, but I mean, it's just there's a lull right now. If and when we come out of it is yet to be determined. But I think there's some great names that are undervalued in the space right now that could warrant some positions being built. But I mean, we are in a vast lull right now that we need to get the hell out of and reinvigorate the sector.
Appreciate you obviously both connecting here this week, and let's follow this market closely, and we'll connect next couple of days.
Yeah, look forward to it.
All right, thanks, guys.